Have you ever felt yourself standing beside a river, pouring all of your life into its stream, only to see it flow away without ever making the river rise? You give your energy, your attention, your care, yet you feel yourself becoming emptier. This is not just a feeling, it is a sign. It is a sign that we are giving our life force to a presence that cannot receive it. This presence has a name in the common tongue, but a name is just a label, a finger pointing at the moon. I invite you not to name it, but to understand its nature, to see the shadow not with fear, but with the quiet clarity of a still morning. Let us begin this journey inward. The ancient wisdom of my tradition teaches that what appears as great strength on the surface is often a fortress built to protect a great wound. Imagine a child left alone in a vast empty room. The silence is terrifying. The emptiness feels like it could swallow the child whole. To survive, the child decides to become bigger than the room. He puffs out his chest and declares, "I am not small. I am the room. I am everything." This is the beginning of the shadow. This is the seed of the hungry ghost. The being you encounter is not a giant. It is a frightened child, hidden deep inside a castle of pride. They must be superior, for the alternative is that terrifying, empty room of their own heart. This fortress of superiority is not a place of peace. It casts a long and chilling shadow over the world. When this presence looks at another, it does not see a soul. It sees one of three things: a mirror to reflect its own constructed light, a tool to be used for its purpose, or a threat to its very existence. You are never seen for the mountain that you are. Your light is only perceived through the filter of their deep and aching need. They must be the source of all light, the pinnacle of all mountains. If your own light shines too brightly, if your own mountain stands too tall, you are not seen as a companion on the path. You become a storm cloud that threatens to block their sun, and a storm cloud in their world must be scattered. This is where the inner storm begins. When the illusion of their sun, like brilliance, is questioned, they do not turn inward to find their own light. They seek to extinguish yours. It may come as a sharp wind of sarcasm or a sudden, cold rain of humiliation. Sometimes, it is a fog of whispers they create to cloud your name from the view of others, all while their own face remains serene and calm. They must win, not from a place of malice, but from a terror that if they lose, the walls of their fortress will crumble, and they will be left as that small child in the vast, empty room once more. Do not be mistaken. This is not the dance of a warrior. It is the trembling of a ghost. Deep within, they live in constant fear that if the world stops offering its warmth, their inner fire will go out completely. You are not engaging with a person of high confidence. You are standing before someone who has built their identity on a fragile reflection, and they must protect it with the desperation of a drowning man clinging to a piece of wood. The truth does not matter. Stillness does not matter. Only the reflection matters. They will bend the light, deny the clouds in the sky, and insist the river flows uphill, not because they are lost to reality, but because their survival depends on you believing their illusion. This is not a path of self-love. It is a path of self-obsession, born from a place of deep shadow, and its journey leaves a trail of wilted gardens in families, in friendships, in the sacred space between two hearts. This is because no flower can grow in the shade of a mountain that believes it is the only thing the sun shines upon. This presence does not connect. It mirrors. When you first encounter it, you may feel an impossible sense of homecoming. It is as if you are seeing your own soul in another's eyes. They echo your deepest thoughts. They feel your oldest pains. They share your most secret dreams. It feels like the universe conspired to bring you together. But what you are experiencing is not a meeting of two streams. You are looking into a perfectly still pool of water that is only showing you your own reflection. This presence does not build a bridge for two to walk upon. Instead, it studies your bridge, learns its every detail, and then creates an illusion of the same bridge to lure you across. They do this because their tradition teaches that to control another, you must first become them. This mirroring is not a gesture of love. It is the subtle art of the spiritual warrior turned to a dark purpose. They study the landscape of your heart not with the curiosity of a fellow traveler, but with the mind of a strategist. What makes your inner sun rise? What are the old rivers of your sorrow? Where is the soil of your doubt? They gather this knowledge as a farmer gathers seeds. In the beginning, they use these seeds to grow a beautiful garden for you. You feel seen. You feel known. You feel as though you have finally come home. But once you are resting in the shade of that garden, once your heart is open and undefended, the nature of the gardener changes. The flowers they praised, they begin to uproot. The waters they shared, they now withhold. The very things that made your garden beautiful become tools to control you. Their empathy is not real. It is a performance. They do not feel the warmth of your sun. They see how you react to warmth and learn to mimic it. Like an actor playing a part. There is no soul in the character. It is a transaction. They offer just enough light to keep your flower turned towards them, while quietly building a wall around your garden. If you ever question the gardener, or try to grow a flower they did not plant, the illusion shatters. The warmth turns to an unnerving cold. This shift creates a war within you, and this presence finds its peace in your chaos. The more lost you are, the more power they hold. This is not connection, it is ownership. You are not loved for the garden you are. You are valued for the sustenance you provide, your sunlight, your water, your soil. You become the ground for their fantasy. And the moment you choose to grow for yourself, they will abandon the garden or burn it to the ground. Often, they do both. True connection asks for vulnerability. It asks for the flow of giving and receiving. It asks for the courage to show one's own barren places. But this presence is incapable of these. Vulnerability threatens their fortress. To give and receive would be to admit another river exists, and to be honest would risk showing the world that their beautiful reflection is just that. A reflection on the surface of an empty pool. So they mirror, they control, and when the performance is over, you are left in a barren garden, wondering if any of the flowers were ever real. The deepest and most painful truth is, they were not. Control is the shadow's obsession, but it is rarely seized with the force of a tidal wave. Instead, it is achieved like a rising tide, silent, strategic, and with a patience that can feel eternal. They create chaos not by accident, but with deep intention. Because where there is chaos, they are the center of stillness. Where there is confusion, they become the voice of clarity. The more you doubt the ground beneath your feet, the more you will trust their hand to guide you. This is the art of clouding the mind. It is not one single act, but a slow, persistent fog that blurs your own inner landscape, one distortion at a time. The shadow does not simply lie. It reshapes reality itself. It will deny the rain that fell only moments ago. It will repaint the story of your shared past. It will insist the sky is green with such calm certainty that you begin to believe your own eyes have failed you. This is their design. For if they can make you question your own inner knowing, they can appoint themselves the sole keepers of your truth. And once that happens, they do not just control the path, they control the traveler. It begins like a gentle breeze. A dismissive tone when you share a feeling. A sharp remark dressed as a joke. A passive withdrawal that leaves you wondering if you are asking for too much water from a well that is running dry. Slowly, this pattern grows. You begin to anticipate the clouds before you even feel the rain. You rehearse your words in your mind, seeking the perfect way to phrase your truth so it does not disturb their peace. Your world begins to shrink. You become a student of their weather patterns and forget the climate of your own soul. This presence does not seek harmony. Harmony requires balance, a shared sky. Their path cannot allow for this, for balance threatens their control. So they will stir the winds, then blame you for feeling unsettled. They will withhold warmth without reason, then act burdened when you shiver. They will plant seeds of doubt about others in your garden, isolating you until the only truth you trust is the one they whisper. And if you ever find the strength to walk away, they do not turn inward to reflect. They escalate the storm, showering you with a sudden sun of affection, then plunging you into a cold darkness. This is not a random weather pattern. It is a deliberate cycle meant to keep you off balance, to keep you thirsty, to keep you chasing the memory of the first sunny day. But that sun was never real. It was an illusion to make you lower your gaze. In this garden of controlled chaos, your own intuition, your inner guide, begins to wither. You stop listening to its quiet voice. You stop speaking your truth. You become smaller, quieter, a more manageable flower. And the shadow, now firmly in control, stands peacefully in the eye of the storm they created, offering itself as your shelter from a tempest of its own design. This is the deep wound of this path. It does not break you with one powerful blow. It guides you to break yourself, piece by piece, thought by thought, until you forget the free and open landscape you were before the storm began. The shadow does not seek love, it seeks energy. More precisely, it seeks a constant flow of supply. This supply is not the warmth of true connection. It is a river of attention, validation, praise, and submission that feeds its empty core. Just as oxygen feeds a fire, it may speak the language of love. It may perform the gestures of caring, but these acts are a form of currency. They are not offerings from the heart. They are investments made to secure a greater return: your devotion, your worship, your emotional wellspring. In the beginning, this can feel like standing in the full force of the sun. The shadow knows how to pour admiration upon you when it serves its purpose. It will make you feel like the center of existence, not because it truly sees your light, but because your adoration confirms its own delusion of greatness. As long as you play your role, as long as your river of attention flows toward it, steady and unquestioning, you will be rewarded. They may even place you upon a pedestal, bathing you in light. But this light is borrowed. It cannot last. The moment you express a need of your own, the moment you draw a boundary to protect your own waters, or you simply stop feeding its fire, the mask of the sun begins to fade. What follows is a cold withdrawal that can feel like a sudden eclipse. They become distant, sharp, even cruel. And when you reach out, seeking to understand the change, they treat your feelings as a burden, as if your simple need for warmth is a profound inconvenience. This is the paradox of the shadow. It demands your unending admiration, yet offers none in return. It feasts on praise, yet starves you of the same. Your offerings become an expected tribute. Their silence becomes a weapon, and your pain becomes a tool they wield. This creates an unbalanced flow where you are always giving, and they are always taking. You begin to work harder to please them, to win back the warmth they once offered so freely. You empty your own well. You quiet your own stream. You make yourself smaller, more pleasing, hoping for the drops of light that once felt like an ocean. But they will never return in the same way, because once the shadow has secured your devotion, it sees no further need to pretend the flow goes both ways. It has already won. This withholding is intentional. By creating a drought, they deepen your thirst. They want you hungry for their light. They want you chasing the memory of the sun they once pretended to be. In that, they maintain control. It is a cycle of sun and eclipse, a dance of intermittent light that creates a deep addiction. You never know when the next ray of light will come, so you hold on, hoping it might, but it rarely does. Because to the shadow, your value is not in who you are. It is in what you provide to its empty core. Once that energy wanes, so does their warmth. And in its place is a cold indifference that leaves you wondering if you were ever truly seen or simply used. There is one thing the shadow fears more than rejection, more than failure, more than being abandoned. It fears being seen. It fears exposure. Beneath the image of the great mountain, there is a hollow, trembling space. This space holds a deep insecurity they are determined to keep hidden at any cost. Every illusion, every manipulation, every mask of warmth serves a single purpose: to protect the false self from being seen for what it truly is, fragile, hollow, and filled with shame. To maintain this illusion of solidness, The shadow is always performing. To the outside world, it presents a polished face, wise, unshakable, even humble when the role demands it. They work tirelessly to gather admiration and respect from the village. But behind closed doors, the story changes. When the village is not watching, or more precisely, when no one who matters to their image is watching, their nature becomes a storm. They lash out at those closest to them, not because these people are without worth, but because they are witnesses. And a witness is a threat. Anyone who sees behind the mask, who begins to connect the serene face with the inner storm, becomes dangerous. At first, the shadow may try to win them back with more illusions, false apologies steeped in self-pity, hollow promises of change, moments of calculated warmth. But if that fails, the path changes. They go on the attack. They lie, they whisper. They create storms to muddy your name. They weave a new story where they are the victim, and you are the unstable one, the ungrateful one, the shadow itself. It is a war of the spirit, and they are relentless in waging it. This deep fear of being seen drives them to preemptively cast out anyone who might threaten their story. Former partners, old friends, even family members who step outside their role are labeled as troubled or unwell. They isolate you from the village, planting seeds of doubt in the minds of others, while maintaining their own mask of the calm, reasonable one. Their ability to control depends on these two realities. They must be admired by the village, while controlling the story within the home. And the more you see, the more dangerous you become. They cannot tolerate true closeness, because true closeness means being seen. Vulnerability, the bedrock of all authentic connection, is terrifying to them. It asks for honesty, and honesty could crack the fragile image they have spent a lifetime protecting. So instead of opening their heart, they deflect. Instead of admitting a wrong, they blame. Instead of accepting guidance, they unleash the storm or retreat into silence. Every reaction is a defense, designed to keep the truth buried. The tragedy is that the shadow is not just hiding from the world, it is hiding from itself. But in the process, it severs the very connections that might have offered true healing. Anyone who sees their true self becomes an enemy, not an ally. And so the mask must be protected, no matter the cost. Because exposure doesn't just threaten their ego, it threatens the entire illusion they have built to survive. The most difficult part of this journey is not the storm itself, it is the silence that surrounds it. These patterns do not exist in a vacuum. They persist because they are hidden, they are dismissed, and they are ignored. People often do not speak up because they cannot. They are too lost in the fog, too ashamed, or too wounded to find the words. And that silence becomes the fertile ground where shadows grow. For as long as no one names the dance, it thrives. It becomes normal, even seen as love, and the shadow is left free, able to continue its cycle with a new person, a new garden, a new stage. This silence is not an accident. It is enforced by the shadow itself. It creates a climate where speaking your truth feels like a dangerous act. You fear you won't be believed. You fear being called the storm bringer. You fear losing the very ground, the relationships, the work, the family that is built around the shadow's carefully constructed image. They guide others to stay silent, to doubt their own inner voice, to question their own knowing. And when that happens, the shadow does not just win control, it erases reality. And once your own truth has been rewritten, you become easier to guide, easier to drain, easier to leave behind. But the silence does not only harm the one in the garden, its ripples spread outward. Children raised in such homes learn to silence their own hearts to keep the peace. Partners learn to endure the cold, mistaking it for the absence of a storm. Friends, families, and communities look away because to see the truth would be too disruptive, too uncomfortable. And so the imbalance continues, not because no one sees it, but because no one speaks its name. To break that silence is the first act of true rebellion. It is also the first step on the path of returning to yourself. To name what you have experienced, the clouding of the mind, the mirroring, the emotional drought, the coldness, gives form to what felt like an invisible ghost. It reclaims the energy from the one who took it. And it sends a message: I see you. I will no longer be silent. I will not carry the secret of your emptiness any longer. Shadows do not exist because they are powerful. They exist because we allow them to hide in plain sight. And the most dangerous are not the ones that roar, but the ones that smile, the ones that charm, the ones that lie, the ones that mask their inner storm with a serene face. They depend on our silence to keep their illusion whole. They fear exposure because exposure is their unraveling. If you have witnessed these patterns in another, or more difficult still, within yourself, the time to speak is now, not for vengeance, but for truth. Because truth disturbs the illusion, it cracks the mask, it forces what was hidden into the light. And in that light, the shadow's power begins to dissolve. Silence allows the hungry ghosts to walk among us freely. Speaking your truth is not just about survival. It is resistance. It is justice. And above all, it is the beginning of freedom.